All right, let's dive into a simple story, but one with a really profound message about how we all experience pain. It's called The Salt and the Lake.
You know, it's a question I think every single one of us has asked at some point. Why do the smallest problems sometimes feel so bitter, so overwhelming? We've all had those days, right? Where a tiny setback, just a little annoyance, feels absolutely crushing. Well, this story, it gets right to the heart of that feeling.
So, to really dig into this, we're going to follow the story of a young man named Ryan. And, Ryan was really struggling. He just felt like the world was against him, that everything was piling up.
He felt completely consumed by it all. Every single problem, didn't matter if it was big or small, it just felt like another weight on his shoulders. He was just carrying this heavy, heavy burden. And feeling totally lost, he went to find a wise man because he was just desperate for an answer, any way to lighten that load.
Now, what's interesting is the wise man didn't give him some long, complicated lecture. Nope. Instead, he started with a lesson that was super simple, something you could actually see and touch. And it all started with just a glass of water.
So the wise man's approach was really direct. He did 3 things, very deliberately. First, he just took a plain glass of water. Second, he stirred in a big handful of salt. And that salt, that represents the pain, right? And then third, he just looked at Ryan and said, "Drink this."
And Ryan's reaction? Well, it's exactly what you'd think. He takes a sip and immediately spits it out. "It's bitter," he chokes out. "It's just awful. The pain, that salt, is so concentrated in that little glass, it makes the water totally undrinkable. It's just overwhelming."
Okay, but the lesson was far from over. Without saying anything, the wise man just gestured for Ryan to follow him, and the whole scene, the entire lesson, was about to change, big time.
So they walk, in total silence, away from that small room with the salty glass, and they come to the edge of this vast, serene lake. You can just imagine the atmosphere completely shifting, right? They went from this small, confined space to this wide-open, expansive place.
In this is where the real lesson starts to unfold. The wise man is basically going to do the same experiment all over again, but with one absolutely crucial difference. It all comes down to context.
So here's the heart of it. You've got the glass on one side, where that handful of salt made everything taste awful, and on the other side you have this massive lake. The wise man takes the exact same amount of salt, the very same handful, and just tosses it into the lake. And of course it just disappears, dissolves into the water.
Then, he turns back to Ryan, and the instruction is the same. Drink. But the situation? It couldn't be more different. You can imagine Ryan is a little hesitant, right? He still remembers that awful bitter taste. But he trusts the wise man, so he kneels down by the water's edge.
And what does he taste? Just water. It's fresh, it's clean. The salt is still there, technically, but its bitterness has been totally absorbed by the massive size of the lake. The pain is still present, but it's not overwhelming anymore. Not at all.
Ryan looks up at the wise man, and you can see the light bulb go on. He's finally getting it. And this is the moment the wise man delivers the big idea, the powerful metaphor that's at the very heart of this story. He says, "The pain of life is pure salt. Its taste depends on the container you put it in." Think about that. The pain itself, the salt, it doesn't change. A handful is a handful. What changes is the container it's put into. That's the key. So what is this container he's talking about? Well, it's not something outside of you. The container, it's you. It's your perspective. It's the capacity of your heart, your mind, to hold that pain and see the bigger picture. When your perspective is small, like a glass, even a little bit of salt, a little pain, is going to feel unbearable. And that's really the big lesson here, isn't it? The challenge for all of us is to stop being a glass and start becoming a lake. It's about expanding our container, cultivating a wider, deeper perspective. That way, when life inevitably throws those handfuls of salt at us, and it will, they don't poison our entire experience. We can absorb them without becoming bitter ourselves.
So, the story leaves us with a question to ask ourselves. And it's not about trying to avoid the salt, because you just can't. Life has pain. It's about how big you build your lake. So the next time you're facing a challenge, just ask yourself, how big is my lake? Am I a glass or am I a lake?